War changes nearly everything, except the fact that soldiers will always look for small comforts in the chaos. During World War II, booze wasn't just a luxury, it was a currency, a morale booster, a painkiller, and sometimes a peace offering between weary men. While military rations occasionally included low-proof drinks, soldiers across Europe, Africa, and the Pacific hunted for the real stuff. These 6 alcohol brands became legendary not because they were fancy, but because they were rare, comforting, and, honestly, dangerously hard to get. For many Allied troops stationed in Britain or passing through Ireland, Guinness was the holy grail. Its rich, creamy head and smooth roasted flavor made it unlike anything available in field rations. Guinness tasted like bread, chocolate, and smoke blended into a dark, comforting pint, and for soldiers far from home, that taste was pure nostalgia. The catch? Guinness was tightly rationed domestically. British civilians got priority, and soldiers, especially Americans, had to rely on local pubs, sympathetic civilians, or back-alley deals to get a glass. Some U.S. troops even traded cigarettes and canned meat to pub owners for a single pint. Even during the Blitz, London's distilleries kept running, and Beefeater gin remained one of the most iconic spirits soldiers searched for. Its taste, dry, crisp, loaded with juniper, citrus, and coriander, was a sharp contrast to the rough homemade gin often found in war zones. For Allied troops, Beefeater represented, real London life, the spirit of a city refusing to fall. Soldiers often mixed it with whatever they could find: lemonade powder, weak tonic, even rainwater filtered through a canteen cloth. But getting Beefeater wasn't easy. Air raids destroyed supply routes, civilian demand skyrocketed, and troops on leave were honestly competing with locals seeking the same comfort. As Allied soldiers liberated towns across France, they discovered a treasure hidden in cellars: Hennessy cognac, smooth, warming, and deeply aromatic. Hennessy tasted like caramel, spice, vanilla, and oak aged in silence while bombs fell overhead. Cognac was technically off-limits for regular troops. It was expensive and often reserved for officers. That didn't stop soldiers from searching abandoned German command posts, French estates, wrecked hotels, and half-destroyed restaurants. Hennessy also became a bargaining chip. French civilians sometimes traded small bottles to American troops in exchange for chocolate, gasoline, or medical supplies. In the Pacific, Allied troops discovered a drink completely different from European spirits: Japanese sake. Instead of the harsh, burning taste of standard rations, sake offered a warm, mellow, slightly sweet flavor with hints of rice, apples, and mild floral notes. U.S. Marines and soldiers typically found sake in captured Japanese camps, abandoned outposts, or civilian villages before they were evacuated. Some bottles were premium, others were cheap wartime versions that tasted sour and rough, like rice wine gone wrong, according to personal diaries. Still, warm sock and a battered tin cup gave weary soldiers a moment of humanity in a brutal theater. Italy offered something uniquely powerful: grappa. This grapeskin spirit was harsh, fiery, and unforgettable. It tasted like pepper, alcohol fumes, and burning fruit, depending on how well, or poorly, it was made. To Allied troops fighting through Italy, grappa was both a shock and a blessing. Italian partisans often shared it with American and British soldiers to build trust. And, when the winter cold set in, grappa became a source of quick heat, burning all the way down and warming the gut. Sometimes, it was fantastic. Sometimes it tasted like industrial cleaner. But honestly, soldiers didn't care. In those freezing mountain passes, any warmth was welcome. Carlsberg was one of the most sought-after beers in Northern Europe. Crisp, clean, and just a bit floral, it tasted like fresh grain, light hops, and cold Scandinavian water. It was, honestly, a perfect contrast to the muddy, flat, improvised trench beers that soldiers sometimes made themselves. But Carlsberg was nearly impossible to get. Denmark was under German occupation, production was heavily restricted, and bottles were, really scarce. Some Allied soldiers who parachuted into Denmark worked with resistance fighters who, every now and then, gifted a single bottle to celebrate a successful sabotage. For troops coming from muddy fields and cold forests, that one bottle tasted like victory. From creamy Guinness to fiery grappa, these drinks weren't just alcohol, they were emotional lifelines. Each carried the taste of home, culture, and normal life in a world consumed by destruction. Soldiers hunted them, not because they wanted to get drunk, but because they wanted to feel human again.